Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy, Brian Jalbert, JalbertBrothers.com, and I am here with the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Michael Milhoan.
Myth.
The myth? This man has been in TV shows from Grey's Anatomy all the way to X-Files, movies like Tin Cup, Field of Dreams Phenomenon. Appreciate you coming in today.
It's my pleasure.
All right, so we're going to start. I want to start at the beginning. I want to talk a little bit about how you got into the business, or what was your reasoning for getting into the film business?
You know something, it's kind of a circuitous route here. I've always enjoyed the business, loved the business, loved movies, loved television at my age. But I was a musician, and the reason I got into this business is because I got in a car wreck. I busted my chops up. I couldn't play the trumpet anymore, and so I know I didn't want to get a job. I didn't want to be a lawyer or something, or go to school and learn how to be an accountant. So I knew I was, I'm in the arts, and I knew I always wanted to be in the arts, and I knew that's where I was at. And so my mother, God bless her, an unbelievable human being, said, look, Michael, go out to Los Angeles. You always wanted to try to do this. You just go. And I went out there and I busted my hump. I really did. Just started connecting with people, going to classes, doing shows, getting involved in these things that they used to call...
like a workshop?
Yeah, well, it was workshops, but they used to call these things... a bunch of actors would get together and do scenes at a theater.
Okay.
And they would invite showcases, and they would invite all of these casting directors and people in to go see them do their stuff. And the casting people liked it because we were all very young folks at the time, and the casting people would say, hey, that guy has some talent, or that gal can do it, or all that stuff. And that's how I got going, and that's how a lot of folks used to do it back then, because these folks they look at you and they know they can make some money with you. Mm-hmm. And so they say, let's take this guy out for a spin, and that's what they do.
What was your first big thing that really, I guess, where you were like, a casting agent seen you, or an agent? Did you get into the business like, did you get an agent first? Did you go to casting directors? Like, what was it that helped you
it's interesting.
to get in?
It's a catch-22 out there. You have to, before you can get an agent, most of the time, before you can get an agent, you have to have a SAG card. And before you can get a SAG card, you got to have an agent, because you got to work, right? Okay. So you got to make money to get a SAG card. So it's a very funny little thing. They did this thing called the Taft-Hartley Act. You might want to look that up, Taft-Hartley.
With SAG, right?
Yeah. And so what happens is there was a show there was a film, and I'd never done this before. There was a film called Beach Girls that I went out, I was going to be...
That sounds like something you'd be in.
Actually, thank you very much. It's a wise guy. So anyway, look, it's Beach Girls, and we went out there I went out there to go do the show as kind of an extra, because I was in good shape back then. And they said... look, how would you like to deliver a line? I had a couple of lines in this thing. I said, well, that'd be great. So I delivered the line, 2 lines. I think it was just 2 or 3 lines. And they Taft-Hartley'd me, which means that, all the money that I made, they paid me a salary now, Screen Actors Guild minimum. Of course, it went right to the Screen Actors Guild. But it also meant I got to eat with the union guys, which means the food was a lot better. So that was good for that day. But yeah, that's how it works. And so it's called Beach Girls. You can look it up or go. I'm
Googling it right now.
I ran into the screen and with my shirt off, and I said, "Surf's up."
Boom.
And there you go.
So would you say that was kind of like your start? So that was like your first start of actually getting in there?
Kind of like my start. I had to take my pants off and run into the ocean with a bunch of people. Thank God they shot us from behind, so I avoided all that humiliation. So we had to run into the Pacific Ocean. And the Pacific Ocean, I mean, you people out here in the Gulf, you don't realize how much warmer it is, but you get in the Pacific Ocean and it is cold, very cold. And they said we did the one shot, and they say, okay, let's go back to ones. We're going to shoot this again. And all the guys are standing around going, no, I'm not getting out of this one unless I get a towel or something, because it was very cold. And, of course, we know what happens when that happens. So, anyway. Next question.
So after you did that movie,
yes,
where did you go from there? you were already in LA, right?
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you did this?
yeah.
Okay, so you moved out to LA to pursue it. You got this. You got Taft Hardy. Kind of got your way in. Did you get an agent after that, or how did that work?
Yeah, that got the card, and then after the card, I did a showcase, and that got the agents. I knew I had some talent. I knew I can get a laugh, and I knew I can do all this stuff. But there's a lot of people out there in Los Angeles humping around trying to get work. So it's very, very competitive. So you got to find a way to get yourself out there. We did the showcase, very good showcase. I did a great little piece in this thing, and I had a bunch of people come to me and say, "Hey, let's give you a spin. Let's see what happens." And so we did that. And but I used to do other things too. And I don't know if this is an informational thing, but I used to when I was after I got an agent, and they would get me out. A lot of times, people, even though if you have an agent, people won't see you because they don't know you. The casting people don't know you, so they rather see these other guys.
Yeah, somebody they're familiar with.
They got to get to know the person before they call you in and they want to. So what I would do is I'd take a day or two and I wouldn't do anything. I'd go around town and I'd get donuts or cookies or whatever it is, and I would go into the offices and I would just drop by the office, very understated, give it to the chick at the desk or give it to whoever it is and say, "Hey, look, I know you guys are working real hard, and I just thought I'd drop these by."
Smart, man.
You'd be surprised. They'd be, "God, thank you so much. That's very nice of you to do that," because nobody does that kind of thing. I didn't want anything for it, but then this girl, the what would you call the girl at the front desk?
Receptionist?
Yeah, the receptionist would go back there and said, "You know what Michael Milhoan just did? He came by and brought us donuts, or he came by and brought us cookies." And inevitably they would call me in for something, and they would say, "Well, listen, thanks for bringing by. That's very nice of us. We're all fat," and they would do that whole thing. But they would say, "But that's very nice of you to do that."
Yeah.
And of course, what does that do? It's a marketing tool. It's getting you in so you can talk to folks. And, that's what that was. And it's just another way to get in there and do that. And it's important to do that, to be able to find a way to make a connection and get in and talk to people.
Smart, man.
Yeah.
And making a connection.
Yeah.
That's definitely the way to go about it.
So,
so when you did that, we'll fast forward a little bit. What was your first big part that I guess that you worked on TV?
I'll tell you what. There was a show called Murder, She Wrote.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Murder, She Wrote with Jessica. What's her name?
I can't remember.
An old actress. She worked on Broadway forever. Gosh, I wish I knew her name. I wish I'd have known you were going to ask me this. But anyway, I'll think of it. But she was the woman that went around Murder, She Wrote. She was a writer who also solved crimes. And that was the first chance I had to go do a TV show, and I got to go out there and work with her, and it was really something. I mean, this was a real set. I remember walking out on that set and thinking to myself, "Wow, this is it."
Were you nervous or
This is a real
anything?
deal. Yeah, no, I was nervous at the thing, but I was also just so arrogant that I,
You're just like, "I'm gonna go do my shit."
Yeah. Everybody, so I can go do all this. And so I would come out there and go do that.
Do you think that played into you being successful, having the confidence to
absolutely.
just go do it and not give a shit?
Absolutely, yeah. You can't be afraid to fall down. Angela Lansbury.
There you go.
Was her name. Thank you for my lovely assistant over here who's helping. Angela Lansbury was her name, and she's huge. She's done a million things, and terrific actress. And so that was the first chance I got. But the thing about it is, you go in there, you have to know. It's a tough business. Like I said, it's very, very competitive and very tough. Dog eat dog.
Yeah.
And if you go in there and show weakness, just like animals, in the back alley, if you show weakness, they'll come and bite you and they'll come get you. And I hate to make it sound like that, but you got to be sure of yourself and you got to know that you can accomplish. Even if you can't accomplish, you got to know that you can.
Still do it, right?
You go in there and you just say, "Look, let's go." And there's something about that that's attractive, something about that people want to be around. If you are confident like that, people want to see it. And when you come into a room with a bunch of producers and you're uncomfortable and you sit down, you have to know that these producers and the casting people that are watching you, they want you to be good.
Yeah, that's
all
they want.
They want you to be good because they want to hire you. And if you come in there and give it the old, "Well, I'm not sure, and let me just go," they don't, they want you to be good. They want you to come in and kick the shit out of the room.
Yeah.
And if something happens where, they might disagree with you, or the reading is this or the reading is that, you can go ahead and acquiesce and try to, listen to their direction and do the direction.
Yeah.
But you are cocksure of what you're wanting to do.
Even if you're wrong, you're still right.
You're
right?
damn
Just
right.
go for it.
Then
Okay.
you listen to what they say, and you try to do what they say, and you can have a discussion about it. And don't ever be afraid to stop when you're in the middle of a audition. When you start off and it doesn't start off right, and I'm sure a lot of the actors that are watching are here, if it doesn't start off right, there's a problem, just say stop. Look it. Take control of the room. Stop. That was horrible. I'm going to start again right here. Let's start from the beginning. Don't give them a chance to say, no. This is my minute. Stop. Let's do this over. Start this. Be bold and make sure that you run that room. You're the one that's there. It's your ass on the line. You're running the room.
So after Murder, She Wrote, where'd you go from there?
After Murder,
you
She
started
Wrote,
doing.
just started going
I know
to-
you started doing movies, so you kind of consistently stayed working. It seemed like throughout the years.
It's very hard to do, yeah. And I was very lucky like that because I would stay busy. People would call and they would say, let's get Milhoan to do this, Milhoan to do that, and it was a terrific thing. And my agents loved me because they didn't have to do shit. They would sit around and people would call them and say, "Hey, is the redneck free to do this?" And we would, come over there and do that. But it was good to be able to have that. It's a tough thing. I had a couple of shows where I was the quote unquote star of the show, or one of the stars of the show, these TV shows.
Uh-huh.
And what happens is, if the show doesn't go, if the show fails, and that happened, what happens is you say, well, he was on this show and it didn't do well. And if you get a couple of those, unless you're very lucky, you get saddled with the show wasn't any good. I did the show called what the hell, with Jerry Burns and Mel Harris. And Mel Harris was famous for 30-something, and then this show was called Something So Right. It was on ABC. And we did this for a while, and for 3 years, and they liked the thing and all that, but the show didn't work. They just went another way. It was about blended families.
Okay.
But it was a problem, and I think that a lot of it was Mel, the female lead in the thing, was, well, let's just be honest, she's a pain in the ass.
Did you run into that a lot? I mean, was there a lot of people out there when they get to a certain point where it's just difficult to deal with?
Sometimes, something...
Or do they stop working?
Yeah.
Do people stop working them?
It all depends if you're difficult to work with for a reason. If you're difficult to work with because, you just are this tedious material you're working with, and you'd rather not, but you got to make a living. But the thing about it is, if you have to make a living, then shut up and do the material and try to do it to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
If you're doing it and you're upset with the material and you'd rather not do this material because you'd rather not be involved in the project, then stand up and say, look, no thank you. I appreciate you having me in, but no thanks. And I did that a couple times. I did both of them a couple times. But it's a tough business. It's hard to know what to do and what not to because you don't know what's going to be successful and what's not going to be successful. So
did you go with your gut a lot of time? I mean, how did you pick and choose when you got to, like, what were some things you used?
Well, the problem I had was I always wanted to do film, and I always thought I was a film guy. Yeah. So I offered a bunch of TV shows, different TV shows to go do, but I was all offered movies as well. Mm. And I would take the movie and leave and not do the TV show. And, that didn't work sometimes, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I have no regrets. You sit there and you do the best you can, and I'm happy with my life, and so
What were some good moments that you could look back on that really stick out in your mind? Like somebody, I know you told me a story about Arnold one time.
Yeah.
Can you tell a story about Arnold?
Arnold Schwarzenegger. I did this film called Collateral Damage with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I was Arnold's good buddy. We were firemen. And I went over to his house. I was his best friend in the movie, so we wanted to kind of foster that relationship. So I went over to his house with Maria. We went on that weekend on a Saturday, and we worked out, shoving weights around. And as you know, Arnold was a world champion bodybuilder. So we got out there and we worked. It wasn't big weights, but it was technique. You have to lift it a certain way and do it a certain way. Mm-hmm. And I did this, and I got to tell you something. Because of the technique, you work your body a whole nother way. So I shoved it out, and we did all this, and Saturday goes by, and it was a lot of fun. See you later, had dinner. Sunday goes by, and as if you've worked out, you understand that what happens is it's not the day after you work out, it's the day after the day you work out that everything's sore.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, it wasn't Sunday. Then Monday we come back to the gig, come back to the set, and I walk out on the set, and there's a bunch of PAs and ADs and other cast members that were walking by, and I'm getting to the set, going to my trailer, and everybody's walking, Mr. Milhoan, how you doing? Good to see you. And they're all poking me in the chest. It was weird, and I didn't, what the hell? Something was odd. And they're poking me because Arnold went around, he was in the makeup chair. He told everybody to come up and poke me in the chest and hit me in the arm because he knew I'd be sore from working out with him. But that's just his sense of humor. And he's just a guy's guy, and so he says, go up and hit the guy, it'll be fun. It'll be sore, so we'll jerk him around. And so everybody was walking with me, poking me. It was just a fun thing, and he's a good guy. And, I got to work with Gene Hackman and Robert Duvall, and it was fun to watch. All these guys I got to work with, just fabulous. And it was fun to watch these guys do their thing. And so, it was good to work with guys like that because you learn so much from them.
What are some things that you were picking up on those guys that you got to work with, like Gene Hackman and Duvall at that certain caliber? Was there a certain way that they carried themselves that you feel really made them successful or anything like that you could pick apart or anything, or no?
To be honest, I could blow a bunch of sunshine here, but to be honest with you, once you get to that point in their careers, at the point when I knew them, then it's already the die's been set. Robert Duvall has this thing about ADs, hates ADs. And the AD would come up to the truck, we'd be coming over to the set, and they would drive us all over in this this van. And the AD would come up to the van, and Duvall would just walk away. I don't want to, because they would tell him, Mr. Duvall, it's 15 minutes. And Duvall would always say, look, how long have I been in this business? I got to get you to come over and tell me. And these poor ADs would be afraid to come over because he'd chew their heads off every time.
That'd be fun, actually.
Yeah,
if I was an AD and he chewed me out, I'd be like, I got chewed out by Robert Duvall. That's awesome.
Robert Duvall's I make the joke, I say Robert Duvall's a terrific guy. All 8 personalities are fabulous to be around. And he really is, man. The guy's a maniac. But that's why he's such a good actor. He commits to everything. Did you know when he did that movie, this is how committed he is. He did that movie, Tender Mercies, the country music guy. You ever see this one? It's one of the great movies ever. He was so committed to that role that he not only did the movie, he went out and recorded a country album. He was a country singer in the movie.
Did he really?
He went out and recorded a country album. That's a kind of level of commitment that this guy has for his characters. It's fascinating. It really is.
So step 1, commit.
Commit, baby.
Commit.
That's right.
And be confident.
Yeah.
What other tips would you give somebody that's starting from fresh? Maybe he's got a little bit of an ability. I know the game's changed a little bit with the cameras and how anybody could basically go out there and make something, which is great. But at the same time, there's a lot of crap. But the stuff that's good is going to push to the top. I could see. Yeah. What type of advice would you give somebody like just starting out? Like, how would you tell them, hey, this maybe you could approach it this way, or give them some kind of advice?
Did you know something? It's all about confidence. Here's the other thing. The biggest tip you can give anybody, Shakespeare said, follow your bliss. And it really is true. If this is something you have to do, then do it. Yeah. And don't quit. And this is get after it and don't stop. And make sure that you bust your ass and you do the best you can. And don't, what happens a lot of times when you're around the arts, we're all artists, so what we'll do is we'll do this, and then we'll sit around and get high and get drunk or something. And this is it's not necessary. And the thing about it has to be a job. It has to be a job that you show up on time. You don't show up drunk. You don't show up stoned. You don't show up, fucked up. Even though I can say fucked up on the thing.
Oh, yeah, you can say fucked up.
You don't say that, but you don't do that. Even though people think, oh, look at it, isn't that cool? Isn't that the creative process? Well, no, it's not, and it really doesn't have to be. So. Just do your job. And what happens is the people that are hiring, the producers and directors, they're hiring, they'll say, well, look, I like this guy. This son of a bitch shows up when he says he's going to show up. We don't have to bail him out of jail. He hasn't beat up his wife. He's not drunk, and he's not vomiting. Yeah. So let's hire him again because he can do the job, and he's not, this guy. And believe me, it's a business. It's a business. People, there's a lot of money spent on a daily basis. and they don't want to have a scene shot where you're in this scene, but Brian can't come today because why? Well, he's in jail. He shot somebody, so he can't make it today, and so now we have to reshoot.
Don't be a troublemaker.
We have to reshoot this thing and do all this stuff. I'm being lighthearted about this,
but that's a lot of money go down the drain if somebody didn't show up
that's
one
what
day.
Happens.
Yeah, because everybody's there. You're talking tons of equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, especially some of the big, huge sets you worked on, like Pearl Harbor and stuff like that. I mean, that's a lot of money.
A bunch of money.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to have people screwing up. So
yeah. What's one thing about the business that you love?
The process.
The process.
Yeah. When you know you're going to do this, when you're going to be this guy in this movie, then as soon as you get to the set, you start hanging around. You start hanging around with the guys that you're going to be dealing with, and you get an attitude about them. Not an attitude, a bad attitude, or necessarily good. You get an attitude about them. So you prejudge and you judge this guy. So when you're on the set and you're working, you already have this relationship with him. And you can tweak it while you're on the set, and you can have fun with it or not have fun with it or whatever. And it's one of those things. So that's the whole process of learning that. So when you get on the set, it becomes conversational, but it becomes conversational because you've done your homework, and then all of a sudden I can poke him and make him react a certain way because of what I think about him. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
so, that's cool.
Yeah.
One thing you hate about the business, looking back on it?
The business.
Yeah.
Some of the politics of the business is just so, it's just breathtakingly, toxic. It's cancerous. Yeah. So that was one of those things that you have to decide whether, you can put up with it or you don't want to put up with it. And so, you have other things to do. Me personally, other things. So I didn't want to, I loved it. I loved the process of doing it, but it's gotten, I hate to sound negative, and it does sound negative, but it's gotten a lot worse to me. But now it's starting to get a little better. They have these new shows, these shows that we watch all the time on
like Netflix and Amazon.
Well, Netflix
and
Amazon, the Homeland, and these different shows. It's just great shows. When I was getting out of the business, it was all about gay. This is gay, or this is this, or they have another thing about what's the other thing about? Well, we hate our parents was the thrust of the show, and all of these shows. It was just this negative thing. It was politically correct stuff that was just so bad, and it would just.
So you like that edgier stuff that's coming out now? Is that what you're saying?
What I like is the fact that they have these shows that these people do in such a way that they cut them loose.
Yeah.
It's real stuff. It's reality shows, but scripted, and these are. This Homeland show, for example, is a great show.
I've never seen it. I'll have to take a look at it.
For Christ's sake, you got to look, and you got to look at the whole thing. You got to lay in bed and sit there for 5 years.
Binge watch everything.
It's a fabulous show, and they do a great job with it because it's Homeland Security. So
it's like it's a border. It's on the border type stuff.
No. It's Homeland Security. It's a Secret Service.
Okay, yeah.
It's a CIA is what she's in.
Okay.
But they're going after the bad guys that are trying to blow us up, and it's the nastiness that goes on. But it's all very intellectual how they go about doing this stuff, and it goes from intellectual to just shooting and killing and being tough. So it's there's some good stuff they're doing now. So.
There's some cool shows. I mean, I like it the fact that the way like Amazon and Netflix are now, like it opens up the market a little better to where those guys are like, you know, taking on the big guys.
And you can do so much. You don't have to worry about Amazon, Netflix, all these things. All of a sudden, you don't have these guys in the studio saying, well, we can't say that, or we don't want to do this, or we don't want to do that, because they have a political bent. All of a sudden, now we can do all of this stuff that they're doing now, like what you guys are doing. You guys are getting on the tube and shooting all this stuff that you don't have somebody coming on and telling you, look, you can't say this, you can't do this, we got to do this, you got to do that.
You're not
and
censoring
you guys don't have to.
anything.
You guys do what you do.
We can say fuck.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want. So there you go.
Oh man. So that's basically it, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming in.
It's my pleasure.
The man, the myth, the legend,
That's
Mr.
me.
Michael Milhoan.
Thank you.
Brian Jalbert, jalbertbrothers.com. Check us out.